Hello, and welcome back to Misty Morrison Podcast. I'm your host, Misty Morrison, and this is episode 72 of Petty Please. Here on the Misty Morrison Podcast, we like to read or listen. We like to see all the stories of pettiness, revenge, bad bosses, bad neighbors, entitlement, all the things, and be grateful those stories are not our drama. Before we get into our stories for the day, our usual housekeeping. Whether you are new or returning, please remember to engage the content to help the channel grow. Every little bit of online engagement is free and can help build the dream. If you are listening on podcast, please leave a 5-star review if you liked it. Anywhere else, give it a like, a heart, a thumbs up. Share it with a friend. Subscribe for more. On YouTube, hit the bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. And wherever you're listening, leave a comment with your thoughts on stories down below. Long-form content goes live every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 a.m. on podcast and YouTube, and short-form content goes live 3 times daily. Before we get into our stories, I forgot. My last episode of Was I in the Wrong, I recorded in August. Don't know how we got to be in August yet, but I forgot to show you Beatrice's new outfit. Here she is. It's just so hot. Summertime, we're having a heat wave. She's got her little bandana on, keep the sun off, and just a little necklace. Hopefully we'll have her some new outfits in a couple months. But all right. Into our stories for the day. Story number 1 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. Breakups aren't hard when you've got a library card. I have no idea where this is going. Buckle up because this is a long one. This story covers a few years, but I'll try to keep it concise. Oh, goodness. I just scrolled to find the end, and this may be our whole episode. I hope it's a good one. Back in 2015, I, 25 male, was swiping on the apps and matched with someone, 28 female, named Ash. Not bothering with a fake name because I don't give a damn if she sees this. We went out a couple times and found we had a lot of chemistry. Things got real physical real quick and seemed to be going well for a couple months. One night after we'd gone to a strip club together and effed in my car, I dropped her off at home. Later that night, she started sending some texts that had just a weird energy. Something felt off. Then she said something to the effect of, "What if I was with someone else right now?" Thinking this was some sexy hypothetical, I played along, but then I get a nude of her that was clearly taken by someone else. I asked her who she's with, and she said her roommate's boyfriend. I got so upset I threw up. I was furious and devastated. Despite that, we met up a week or two later. I forgave her way too easily, and she moved out of her apartment and into her mom's basement. Not long after that, things were back to normal and fun. Then she decided she needed to get sober and enter recovery, which I was super supportive of. I drove her to meetings when I could, hung out with her when she wanted, and gave her space when she wanted. Early sobriety is a super volatile state to be in, but I did my best to be a good partner to her. Eventually, we made it work. For a while. I felt that at that point, we'd been together long enough that I wanted to introduce her to my family. We had a big dinner planned at my sister's house, but the night of, she went totally radio silent on me. Never showed, no response when I checked in on her. I was a wreck for the next few days, barely being able to eat, sleep, or do anything besides worry and spiral. After several days of this, I went to her workplace a little while before she got out and waited in the parking lot. She eventually came out, and I was just relieved that she was okay. I asked what happened, and she told me that she'd had a bad relapse and even tried to overdose. I was as understanding and supportive as I could be. Later that night, she broke up with me over text. What a roller coaster. A few weeks went by and we started talking again, followed pretty quickly by us getting back together, and things were fine for a while. Oh boy. Over the course of that first year, the pattern typically went, I'm glad you realize there's a pattern. The pattern typically went as such. We were fine and dandy, having lots of fun, then she'd disappear for days/weeks at a time. I'd be a nervous wreck, then she'd come back and things were cool. Then she'd randomly break up with me, only for us to rekindle and get back together. Unsurprisingly, this took a toll on my mental health, and after a little over a year, I ended things with her for good at the time. What followed was a period of time she and I would later refer to as the in-between. It basically went like this. I was sad for a year, then I was in a stable relationship with someone who actually treated me well for a year. Then I was slutty for a year. During that slutty period, circa 2018, I had a career opportunity that put me on the other side of the country from her. So I felt safe reaching out. I asked if she was interested in being old school pen pals, which she was. We sent letters back and forth during my time away from home, and it was pleasant. We got caught up on each other's lives, and she told me that she was not only single, but had been celibate for a while. I should also mention a third figure in the saga. The first year we were dating, I'd periodically hear about her ex, Harlow. Just the occasional mention of how he was a loser, junkie, couldn't let go. Just enough to know he was her shitty ex. Anyway, she told me that she and Harlow had gotten back together for a while in the in-between, but he left her after he found some diary entries she'd written about me. Well, the months passed, and eventually I moved back home, but with the intention of making it back to the other side of the country permanently. Ash and I exchanged a couple more letters and even met up a couple times to get coffee and catch a movie. All surface level and friendly, but with about a metric F-ton of sexual tension. It didn't take long for me to make the move I wanted and bid my hometown goodbye for reals. It just so happened that Ash had a conference coming up in the city I moved to, not long after I moved in. So we agreed to meet up while she was out that way. That day finally came, early 2019 at this point, and we decided we'd take a little hike, despite the fact that it was raining. A little while into our hike, we took a break and sat for a bit. She then told me how sorry she was for how she treated me in the past, how much she'd grown and worked on herself in these 3 years, and how she'd never been able to stop thinking about me. I told her I hadn't stopped thinking about her either. We kissed and then hightailed it back to my apartment to do 3 years worth of effing in a single afternoon. Then I drove her back to the airport. Oy. We decided to get officially back together despite the distance. She flew out to visit me for longer stretches a few times after that, and it really seemed like she'd changed. For the first few months anyway. Some old patterns started to reemerge, and it wasn't long before we were back to periodic disappearances and short-lived breakups. This got compounded by both the distance and eventually COVID lockdowns. Since we were so far apart, whenever she'd disappear, all I could do was wait and spiral, often leading to obsessive social media rabbit holes. I should also mention the social media weirdness. It was fine for us to follow each other on Instagram, but she refused to let us be Facebook friends. Whenever I tried to ask why this was, she'd disappear. So I made excuses for her in my head and just tried to be grateful for what I had. Why? Anywho, these rabbit holes never led to much besides a couple cryptic clues that felt like grasping at straws. Then she'd finally come back into contact and we'd be fine again. Rinse and repeat. Nothing about this was ever fine. It was in this time frame that we started seriously discussing our future. And she showed a lot of interest in moving out to my new city and moving in with me, even eventually getting married. During one of her visits, she told me that she'd applied for a PhD program at a school in another state. It came down to either her getting in and moving there for the 2 years the program took and then moving in with me, or her not getting in and just moving in with me. On the last day of her visit, she told me she got in, and I felt a mixed bag. I wasn't thrilled about an extra 2 years of long distance, but I believed the wait would be worth it, and I was genuinely happy for her. So it went for a while like that, with lots of exciting ups and devastating downs. She just got worse and my mental health suffered. One of my social media rabbit holes led to the discovery that Harlow had moved to the same small city Ash had just moved to for school. I asked her about it and she said it was because his parents were from there and he had to move back with them. That was also apparently how she'd heard about this school and PhD program. 2021 rolled around, and with our new vaccinations, the possibility of travel opened back up. After about a year and a half apart, she booked a flight to come see me for a weekend. No other visits had been that short, but I took what I could get. It was also around the same time that it came out that her PhD program was now going to take an extra year. She never bothered to tell me. I had to explicitly ask about it. Another benefit of being vaxxed was I could go out to my favorite karaoke bar again, which I did one night in the summer of 2021 with a friend. He had a circle of friends among the regulars at this bar, and that night I met them. Among them was a lovely woman who I'll call Catherine, fake name. Now, I'll admit I'm not always great at social cues, and I'm especially bad at telling the difference between someone flirting with me and just being nice. I've been wrong about both many times in my life. Anyway, Catherine was there the next week too and invited me to a movie that a big group of her friends were going to. We went, had a lovely time, and hung out a couple more times after that. This whole time I was sure she just wanted to be friends, but nope. She confessed her feelings for me, and I told her I wasn't really in a place to date anyone, and mentioned I was in a complicated long-distance situation that wasn't making me happy anymore. Honestly, someone being kind to me really opened my eyes to how horribly and arguably abusively I'd been treated by Ash. I think we're 3, 4 years into the story, and it took you this long to realize that she's been emotionally and mentally abusing you this entire time. But you said you misread social cues. I realized I needed to cut her off once and for all, regardless of whether Catherine would still give me a chance. I took some time to gather my thoughts and write out a breakup message to Ash, detailing all the ways she'd mistreated me. It ended up being novel length and required me to break it up into multiple messages. Not the text. It ended up, felt so cathartic to finally get all of that out. And of course, she left it on read. Never heard from her again. A blessing, thank heavens. Catherine and I dated for a few months after that. And after a bunch of stuff that's not relevant to the story, she broke up with me. I was pretty heartbroken and depressed for a while, which led to a few more rabbit holes. The last one actually led to some real answers, or rather, one answer that explained pretty much everything. I managed to dig up a Facebook post Ash's mom had made back in 2018. It was a post in a public group for some kind of family reunion. An RSVP/primer of sorts for the rest of the family. It went along the lines of, I'm blah blah, daughter of so-so and so-so. And here's my daughter, Ash, and her husband, Harlow. It linked to both of their real Facebook accounts, so there was no mistaking. This post would have been right around the time she and I reconnected and started sending letters to each other, when she explicitly told me she was not in any kind of relationship. Furthermore, I learned that she wasn't in school at all, but it was Harlow that got into the PhD program. Okay, I thought that was fishy from the start, because the way you said, like, she keeps relapsing, she is good in her life, and then she disappears from everything for a while, I didn't really see how she could manage to get into or stay in a PhD program. Now, I had 2 reasons to be devastated, and I did not take it well. Why? Just be grateful you're done with her. Months upon months followed with me isolating in the dark as much as possible and using basically all of my saved up sick time on mental health days. Whenever I had to be at work or around people in general, I just kind of power through it and count the seconds until I could be alone again. Eventually, I started seeing a therapist and got referred to a psychiatrist for some mood stabilizers. Okay, now we can finally get to the revenge. Somewhere during this tumultuous time, I remembered that I'd given Ash access to my library card, as she was an avid reader. And since we lived in different cities, my library card opened up a wider selection of ebooks and the like for her. I logged into my account one day and saw that she'd been actively using it this whole time. Huge list of holds and reservations covering a wide variety of topics and genres. Inspiration struck, and I waited for the perfect moment to get my extremely petty revenge. I monitored my account until she checked out a fresh book. I gave her a couple days to start it and get invested. Then I went through all her lists with a machete. I returned the book she was reading and canceled all her holds and reservations, except for a book about saving your marriage from infidelity. I figured she'd need that one. I then put a bunch of holds on books with titles that I knew would call her out. Titles like Secrets I Know, A Little Bit Married, Good Morning Monster, and The Patron Saint of Liars. I'd check back on them every couple days until one day all the lists were cleared out and I knew she'd seen it. I even looked up her Insta and she changed her bio to patron saint of liars. I'd gotten under her skin for sure. A couple months later, I checked my account again and she was back to using it. So I decided to be a tad more direct. I cleared out her holds and reservations again, but this time I put holds on a bunch of books with some variation of cheater in the title. It was never a problem again after that. I haven't heard from her since, and I've been doing much better mentally. I'm even in the process of getting weaned off the mood stabilizers. I'm also in a much better relationship now. Every so often, I'll be reminded of this whole debacle, and it makes me smile. My revenge wasn't harmful, illegal, or even proportionate to what she put me through. But it was petty as hell, and I'm okay with that. And Ash, if you're reading this, F all the way off. I did not know what a saga we were in for when I saved that one. Oh my goodness. That was, I don't even want to call it the long game because you didn't plan this. Like, you came upon this by accident. You just kind of lucked into it. I love the way you did it once you had the chance for revenge, but oh my goodness, after everything she put you through, I would have just been so grateful to have her out of my life. I wouldn't have cared at all about revenge. I wouldn't have wanted to even risk opening a door back up for this psycho by going through with the revenge. Because I'd be like, oh my gosh, what if she tries to contact me over it and call me out? Or, no. Grateful to not hear from her ever again. Just close the account or ask them to make a new one. Say you got hacked. I don't know. Just be done. Your life is so much better because she's not in it. Wow. Okay, so that didn't take up our full time. So let's see what we can read next. Okay, here's a short one. We might be able to do a couple if they're short, and we are definitely doing a palate cleanser today. Story number 2 is coming to us from We Don't Have Any Prawn Cocktail. I work in catering at a company which provides lunch for free. We ask that all the staff order their meals in the morning so we can prepare and have them ready. This is lovely. There is this one high-ranking staff member that rarely orders, so we end up having to accommodate them on the fly at lunchtime. But because they are high-ranking, we have to deal with it. I hate this. I hate that they don't follow the rules consistently. Yeah, because if the high-ranking people are not following the rules, how do you expect anyone else to? They occasionally come to the catering team at random times asking for a bag of crisps. This is okay. People often ask for water or a biscuit, etc., and we don't mind this. It's just the staff member turns their nose up at every flavor except prawn cocktail. They always say something like, "No prawn cocktail?" Or, "I don't like that flavor." Here's my revenge. When we get a new multi-pack box of crisps, which has like 6 of each flavor in it, I use all the prawn cocktail first for packed lunches or handouts so that this staff member has to make do with something else. It makes me happy. I love this. It's so simple. She can't prove that you're doing it on purpose. You're just like grabbing the first 6 out of the box and they happen to be the prawn cocktails. Personally, if this is like a flavor of chips, I think, like, I love shrimp. But if this is like a flavor of chips, I think that sounds disgusting. To each his own. But I love it. It's so simple. You're getting just a little bit of revenge for what this person puts you through on the regular. Good for you. Let's see. And the next one's pretty short too. So we'll have one more story before our palate cleanser. Story number 3 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. Revenge against a toxic coworker. A supervisor at my job, Alice, has been overbearing, toxic, and self-centered, creating and attempting to enforce rules that she made up, benefiting herself, of course. And generally, she has been a very hostile, pain-in-the-ass coworker, in particular towards me, since I was promoted to supervisor 4 months ago. Recently, there was an incident where she made public comments for one day that she could not do a particular job, which involves customer safety, and which is much easier on the supervisor doing that job, for medical reasons. Suddenly, the next day, she was doing this job again, and then the day after that. I noticed that she was using a special seat cushion. No mention was made to other coworkers about this special accommodation. Then today, her first day off since the medical incident, I noticed a seat cushion stashed in a corner, but in a public area at our large facility. I looked up the brand on Amazon, and it appears to be a cushion for hemorrhoids and tailbone issues. How apropos. Since neither Alice nor any other supervisor had mentioned that one of our own might be using this item, Alice does not speak to me except to tell me to go elsewhere when she is performing a task and I happen to come by. I innocently assumed that it was left behind by a customer. When I was doing my closing rounds, I dutifully turned the item into Lost and Found, which receives hundreds of items per day. I'm looking forward to having the pain in the ass return to work and have her pain in the ass return. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, and I can see the first comment. It says, get really petty and tape a box of Preparation H to it. We see you, Alice. We see you. And then the reply to that comment says, that's the kind of petty idea that's funny to imagine, but probably shouldn't happen. Yeah, because if she gets, because it sounds like she's the kind of person that will, if she gets real hateful and makes an issue about it, they can pull the security cameras and see, I don't know if they keep a log of like who turned in what items, but they can see the security cameras and see that you put the Preparation H on it. So as long as you don't do that, you can say it's completely innocent. I saw it in the corner, so I turned it in. But if they see you putting the Preparation H on it, then they're like, you're being mean to her. Yeah, I do love the idea, though. Like, I love what you did. Like, you just turned it in. Now her life's going to be a little bit harder. Yeah. So our palette cleanser for the day is a short one. Story number 4 is coming to us from r/random acts of kindness. A doctor's wife who didn't know me did something amazing. I wanted to post this as it was exactly 60 years ago. I was 12, my sister was 6. My dad was in Vietnam with the Air Force. We were driving back to South Carolina from Virginia early in the morning. Halfway there at 6 in the morning, I was asleep in the back seat and my mom blacked out, we think. It was a horrible accident. It was pretty clear I was going to be the only survivor. No family within 150 miles. I'm in a hospital bed, just too stunned to function. A lady comes in, introduces herself as my mom's doctor's wife, and says, my son thought you should have these. 6 comic books. I'm still amazed. I love that. Just something to brighten your day and just kind of help you keep going since you were alone. Just that little kindness can make all the difference. Like, especially the fact that you still remember this and it still matters to you 60 years later. It matters. And I hope somehow she knows what a difference she made in your life. I love that. Okay, that is 4 stories for this week's episode of Petty Please. Thank you so much for being here for another episode of the Misty Morrison Podcast. Remember, start each day with a grateful heart. Kindness changes everything. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.